travelers, welcome home. You just tuned your dial to Spaced Out Radio, the only place where you can own the night. I am your host tonight, Mr. Rob G, filling in for the great Dave Scott, filling some big shoes tonight. He is in Nebraska at a convention, so I'll be taking over for the night, and also maybe even tomorrow. We'll take it into the weekend. We are definitely broadcasting to you on our terrestrial affiliates across North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, KPNL, and Odyssey Radio. Remember, you can access our archives for free at youtube.com/spaced out radio. And while you're there, please consider hitting that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where the options are endless. You can stay up to date with the SOR Newswire, get some official Spaced Out swag, plus rock out to some Bumblefoot. And so much more. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming on in tonight. Filling in for Dave Scott once again. He's on at a convention out in Nebraska. And I don't know. I mean, maybe we'll hear from him before the weekend is up. I don't know. I don't know what the plans are there. But we plan on having an awesome show here tonight, right? As you can see, I had to go fly all the way out to Canada to go ahead and hold Dave's studio down while he's out, which is why you see me broadcasting live and direct from Dave Scott's studio. Jokes aside, though, we'll if this doesn't affect the stream, then we'll keep it up. But if not, we'll go back to the normal background. With that being said, let me go ahead and take a look in the crowd and see who it is that has come in first tonight. And I got a heads up on this one, so I believe the top three for tonight is going to be Laura Lobbs, International Playboy, and Race Fan. So we'll go ahead and jump into the chat and make sure that that is what it is. And let's take a look here. Let's go ahead and jump all the way back to the beginning here. Okay. All right, so this is the top of the list. Yep, we got Dino Bravo fan coming on there and saying, hey, Rob, OGCA, California. Thanks for coming in, Dino Bravo fan. Awesome of you to come in on this Thursday night, right? Yeah, Thursday night. Filling in for Dave, losing track of my days. We got Robert Lamoth Jr. saying, hi, Dave. Dave is not in, but this is Rob G. in Dave's studio, if that makes it any better. Thanks for coming on in, Robert Lamont Jr. We got Race Fan coming on in saying, good evening, Rob. Thanks for coming on in, Race Fan. We appreciate your support of Spaced Out Radio. We got Stephanie Blankenship saying, hey, everyone. Hey, Stephanie, thanks so much for coming on in tonight. We do appreciate you. We have Brown Dwarf saying, good evening, Brown Dwarf. We do appreciate you coming on in. And let's see here. Kathy Evans, thanks for coming on in. We do appreciate you showing up tonight. And let's see, Lee the Bee saying, hey, Tamonth man, good to see you. Hey, Dave, good to see you too. All right, I'll just take all Dave's. So when you say Dave, I'll assume you're speaking about me. And we'll keep it moving. Thanks for coming on in, Lee the Bee. Wildberry Candy Co. saying, good evening, loves. Good evening right back to you, Wildberry Candy Co. We appreciate you showing up tonight. Appreciate your support. Who do we have? Rough Rider 82. Thank you so much for coming on in. We appreciate you showing up. Let's see. Leafy Nebula. Thanks for coming on in. Let's see. Ginger Turtle 43. Thank you so much for coming in, saying hi, everybody. Hi, Dr. Nick. All right. Appreciate you coming on in. Dragonfly saying, evening, Rob and SOR chat family. Thanks for coming on in, Dragonfly. We do appreciate you showing up tonight. We got Just Men saying, hello, my name is Simon, and I like to do drawings. Okay, thanks for coming on in, Simon. Appreciate you showing up. T-Bone, T-Bone. All right. Thanks for coming on in. Saying hi. ACT, Captain, Mr. Rob G, one and all. Peace, one and all. Appreciate you coming on in, T-Bone. We do appreciate you, T-Bone. Thank you for coming on in. Van Gold saying, hey, Dave, VV, and Spaced Out Radio Chat. Hey there, Van Gold. Thanks for coming on in. We appreciate you. Sandra Kincaid, happy Friday, East Coast that is. Oh, yeah, I mean, fool for a minute, I'm going to say it's definitely not Friday here in California, but yeah, I guess it is Friday on the East Coast. Happy Friday to you guys. Thanks for coming in, Sandra. Let's see, we got Corey. Corey saying, hello, Dave. Hello, SOR. Thank you for coming on in, Corey. We appreciate you showing up and supporting the show tonight. Let's see, going down the list. We got Cosmic Joe Chronicles with the alien head emoji, spaceship emoji. What is that? Saturn emoji and the horns emoji. Okay, love it. Thanks for coming on in. We appreciate you. Getting down the list, Laura Lyles once again. Thanks for coming on in. And we are almost there, right? Looks like it. Susan Alloway, thanks for coming on in. We appreciate you saying hello, everyone. We do have Miss Catherine Jones saying hello, SOR family. Hello, Miss Catherine Jones. Thank you so much for showing up and supporting the show tonight. We do appreciate you. Operation Shutdown. I'm here for Phantoms, Ghosts, and Monsters. Okay, well, you're in the right place. We definitely have a great guest to speak about that tonight, Varla Ventura. First time with me speaking to her, so it's going to be pretty awesome, I think. And we'll see as we get into that tonight. Thanks for coming in, Operation Shutdown. Getting down the list, W. David Page saying hi all. Thank you for coming on in, W. David Page. Thanks for your support. All right. We are moving on down the list. Marty Burbach saying happy Thursday. Happy Thursday right back to you, Marty. Thanks for showing up tonight. We appreciate you. Christine Lynn. Hey, David. SOR chat. Hey, Christine. Thanks for coming on in. Android Paranormal saying, hey, everyone. Hey, Android Paranormal. Thanks for showing up tonight. We appreciate you showing up. Latchkey Hustle. Good evening, folks. Good evening right back to you, Latchkey Hustle. We appreciate you. Let's see, going down the listy here. Pam Harris saying, hey, the Groucho Marx emoji. Appreciate you coming on in. Pam Harris. And getting down the list, we got Algore saying, just finished up at the gym, ready to take on some monsters. I need to be in that gym with you. So shout out to you, Algore. And I do appreciate you coming on in. Thanks for your support. Aloha Dave 13. Buenos noches a todo de Mexico. Good evening to everyone from Mexico. Thanks for coming on in. Aloha Dave. Keeping us bilingual as usual. We love it. Appreciate you coming in. Going down the list, we got Princess Lion. Princess Lion showing up tonight. Thank you for coming on in, Princess Lion. And Paranormal Pixie Laura, thanks for coming on in. Beautiful evening, folks. We got Chillgasm, thank you for coming in. Hi from Colorado. Eternity Eternal, hi Rob G, SOR fans. Thanks for coming in, Eternity Eternal. Asteroid coming, I hope not. Thanks for coming on in, Asteroid coming. Appreciate you showing up tonight. Matthew Goodka, hi Dave and SOR friends. Thanks for showing up. Matthew Goodka, Stacy D, yay, Varla. That's what I'm talking about. We'll get it in tonight. Thanks for coming on in. We do have Puck Elf sighting. Puck Elf saying, Rob, dude, hey, Puck Elf. Thanks for showing up tonight. Thanks for showing your love. We appreciate you. Yeah, Andrew Paranormal. Mr. Rob G moved into Dave's house. Took it over, actually, till Dave gets back, right? Thanks for coming on in. Let's see. Jennifer, wavy hand emoji, smile emoji. Yes, thanks for coming on in. DJ Luna, one moon drop. Thank you for coming on in, saying hi, guys. And Mike Rivers, hello, Mr. Rob G. Hello to the SOR crew. It's great to see you all. Same to you. Definitely, same to you. Andrea Paranormal makes a point, says Nebraska's only 3% forest. If Sasquatch is there, he is a teleporter without a doubt. All right. We'll definitely have to keep that in mind as we move down the list. Lex Diaz, thanks for coming on in. Mr. Rob G. Kira, I am. Hello, Rob G. The cool man is Spaced Out Radio. Yes, thanks for coming on in, Kira. And I promise we're almost at the end. It looks like we are. Let's see. We are moving down. A lot of people in here tonight. Jerry Carter. Wow, Dave's office sure looks tiny tonight. Exactly, I know. The perspective is a little bit off. But it definitely does, doesn't it? Let me move on over a little bit. All right, let's take a look here. All right. Jorgensen, G's up, palm trees and SoCal love, brother. Same right back to you, Jorgensen. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, I think we are there. Scrolling it down, make sure we don't miss a soul. And I think that is it. We got Paul Nicholas. Love the late night vibe of Rob G. Bring the monsters. Okay, that's what we're talking about. Let's go ahead and do that. So with that being said, we have a couple actually guests with us tonight here. We have our guest of the night, Varla Ventura. And then we also have Dirty Filth. The dirty one has actually joined us here tonight. So let me bring everybody up on stage here as we go ahead and welcome author and experiencer extraordinaire, Varla Ventura. First time me meeting her. It's going to be awesome. Hello, Varla. How are you tonight?
Hello. Great to meet you.
It is great to meet you too. And actually, you'll be in Reno, right?
Not
this year. Oh, okay.
I know in last year I was in Vegas and you were teleported. We missed each other.
I was looking forward to. I was like, okay, Varla's one I'm gonna meet. I'm just marking down a list of people I'm gonna meet because there's gonna be a lot of people there. I know you were at the last one, so
yeah. Not this
year.
Okay.
This year, human being, half human / fish, or do you think that it's it? Because if it is, then it doesn't necessarily fall in a cryptid category, I would think. What do you think about that? And to you, how would you describe what a mermaid is or what they are?
So, in my opinion, mermaids and a lot of the creatures that today we call cryptids, they predate cryptids. That's my personal opinion. Mermaids are members of the fairy kingdom, which a lot of people don't realize, but they are classified as fairies, especially if you look at the Irish fairy lexicon, you see the Murrow among the many creatures of the Fae, but not just in Ireland, around the world. Anywhere that there's an island nation or a coastline, you have mermaid lore. So I think it's just kind of an interesting discussion because I have not ever really considered myself I enjoy discussions that involve cryptids, but they are typically not creatures that I consider. I just don't think of. It's a different word for something that I think predates kind of the more modern term of cryptozoology. So all of these unexplained creatures, or perhaps they're well explained. I think that they have earlier accounts and earlier counterparts. And I think if you go back and you start looking, delving deep into the folklore from cultures around the world, you'll see instances of, whatever kind of we call a cryptid today, you'll see descriptions of that or stories that involve that. Some of it lost to translation, some of it changed over time. But I just think we have different words today than we had 100 years ago or 200 years ago or 500 years ago or longer. So, thousands of years ago. So I just think we kind of assume them as different categories, but in my mind, they're really not. And then just, since you asked, mermaids are actually not these they're lovely, but they're not quite all the, bells and dancing crabs and beautiful songs. They actually tend to sort of protect the sea in a way and patrol the sea. And sometimes, perhaps without meaning to, they lure humans in. And, I just want to spend some time with them, Rob. Just to spend some time together. Yeah. And then the next thing you know, you're underwater and you can't breathe. But there's all kinds of interesting mermaid stories from around the world. And I think I consider them actually of all of the sort of like cryptids or supernatural creatures or whatever you want to call them, mermaids have remained the most consistent since really like probably one of the earliest depictions is an Assyrian goddess. And that goes back, far enough that there were a few small differences with the depiction of the mermaid, but generally it's half fish, half woman, or half fish, half human. Other than the tail being bifurcated, which is like where the tail is split, so it kind of almost looks more like legs. Mm-hmm. You have really like across cultures and time, you have really similar depictions of what can be recognized as a mermaid, which I think is very interesting because a lot of other creatures like to, evolve and have different attributes, but mermaids have made they're pretty consistent.
Is there a chance ever that these things could have, because I've seen different depictions of mermaids where they were like half fish and half something else. I'm not sure what they were, but when you look at that and then you look at the fact that a lot of people talk about we have these extraterrestrials that live underwater, okay, so then you kind of translate that into the sighting that those Russian divers encountered back in the 80s at Lake Baikal, where they had gone under the ice and then stated that they were confronted by like 3 8-9 foot extraterrestrial sort of mermaid sort of type beings. Is there a chance that these things could be related, or do you think those are just two separate situations?
Oh no, I think like all those underwater creatures have probably evolved in a similar fashion, but then have faceted off into adapting to freshwater. And there's all kinds of, as far back as we have been able to contemplate the meaning of life, there are instances of people, humans, Homo sapiens sapiens, trying to connect with some sort of divine or divinity. And water is sacred, right? Like water is one of the most sacred things on earth. It's incredibly valuable. It's essential for our survival. And especially fresh water must be protected at all costs. So it's not uncommon to find around the world spirits, that dwell within the well or that protect the shores of the lake. Water is essential to our life, but yet at the same time, it's life-threatening. If you spend too much time underwater, you won't survive. So it makes sense that some of these creatures have become more fearsome in order to be more protective. I heard a really interesting theory a few years ago that I completely buy into. And that was that during the witch craze in Europe, which really was, the Middle Ages, like 1500 to 1600, where thousands and thousands of innocent people were killed in the name of witchcraft, that a lot of mermaids were hunted out of the British Isles in particular, as well as along the coast of like France, Brittany, Italy, because they were believed to be witches. And there are numerous stories in folklore of mermaids marrying mortals and then they're having children. That's actually very common in the fairy kingdom, that sort of like supernatural blending, right? And so I think the idea of mermaids also having these sort of otherworldly powers led to, which they do, really led to the elimination of a lot of mermaids, that they were actually hunted. And of course, that was a time when like whaling was a thing. So, yeah, I mean, I think that there are, I would say, if they're not necessarily mermaids, they're counterparts to the mermaids. They're equivalents to the mermaids in different cultures in different places. So as far as like that thing you were talking about with Lake Baikal, or there being sort of like there's always been talk of Atlantis and sort of like a subaquatic species. And I don't know if that's like a completely different thing, or if that's just sort of a branch off of these. Honestly, I think we probably all were the same at one point. Some of us just stayed in the water. When the like humans kind of came out of the water, the mer people stayed in it. That's entirely possible. But I will tell you that, every single day you read about some kind of creature that defies science or, has never been seen before. You see some sort of incredibly bizarre, aquatic species that has, an extra eyeball on a lantern that's hanging off its head, or, incredibly long tentacles. And so there's many... there's just no way we will ever, nor should we ever, explore every inch of the ocean. I think that's a real problem in the desire to find things and to hunt for things. We also sort of eliminate any sacred and clean space for these magical creatures to dwell in. And so, I've long thought, like, if I were Bigfoot, I would not ever show my face, because we've proven, in particular over the last 300 years, we've proven what kind of beastly nature we have as humankind, right? So we're not really evolved enough to interact with these creatures. We're just not. We're some of us occasionally have sightings or experiences, and I think that can be an indication maybe that you're on the right path. But mermaids sometimes do help those who are lost at sea. There are stories of mermaids coming to rescue on a foggy night by providing song. There's just as many stories of mermaids deliberately drowning ships for the same purpose. But my main belief about mermaids is that they are psychopomps. And a psychopomp is something that guides someone, a soul, from this world to the next as they are dying. And mermaids absolutely serve that purpose. When people drown at sea or, drown in a lake, there's something that helps transport them, because often, it was very common for like ships to go down, sailors would drown, and you wouldn't have a body to recover. You wouldn't have anything that you could bury. And so you sort of have this like wayward soul kind of wandering around. And the mermaids would serve to kind of make sure that they were cared for. Might be in a watery grave for the rest of their lives, or for the rest of their immortal lives, but you still have a role that they play, not unlike the Valkyries on the Viking battlefield. They played a role to help escort those who died in battle to Valhalla. So I think mermaids kind of serve a similar purpose.
And that's actually pretty awesome. The what you stated about maybe we shouldn't really explore the, this is a strong statement because whenever whenever we find something new, we expose it, we take advantage of it usually, and then usually ends up in some sort of situation where something is now going extinct because we can't keep our hands off of things. So that makes a lot of sense that maybe we should keep most of the ocean un undiscovered. Because I've thought about that. I'm like, okay, it's 95% of the ocean we haven't explored. So, but if we did explore 100% of it, there'd be 100% of the ocean exploited because that's just what we do and how we are. I have a question here from a Mike Rivers asking, could the mermaids originate from Neptune brought here by some other alien being, in your opinion?
I mean, anything's possible, right? In the Irish fairy lexicon, the fairy folk came to Ireland as sort of a supernatural race, and they were basically driven out by another human race. And the son of the sea god, Manan Mac Lir, gave them the ability to cloak themselves, that they might only appear when they choose to appear. And I think that we don't really know the origins. I guess it's possible. I mean, we equate mermaids as being under the domain of Neptune, which is the planet that also represents expansion and dreaming. So it's possible. I mean, if you're saying did some Neptune dust land on it's possible. I also think it's possible that there, just if you look at I don't know, I studied a lot of archaeology and anthropology, and so there's a point at which species start deviating from one another and sort of developing their own thing. And but there's also something else, and that kind of goes back to this, Rob, the idea of not picking everything apart until it's basically just preserved in a jar. And
Right.
and that is the idea that we won't really understand if something really does come from true magic and true something truly supernatural and sort of otherworldly, or perhaps it's parallel dimensions, or just something that's not quantifiable in the same scientific method that we've all been trained in. I mean, this has been ingrained. This is what we're taught in school. I'm not saying I love science. Science is fascinating. But I also think that there's a point at which the beauty is to not know. And, it's the pinning the butterfly on the board so we can admire its wings instead of planting a pollinator garden,
Right. Well, it just makes me think because when I think of mermaids, I've never seen anything like this. We just go off of the stories that we're told, but the stories do go back hundreds and hundreds of years. So it would just make me think that I think we're pretty sure that we have these anomalous craft that go into the water. I think we've seen them do this. So we have an idea that they're under there, and it would just if these mermaids are in any way intelligent, which it sounds like they are, then it would make sense that at some point in time, either they come across whatever these things are underwater, these extraterrestrials, and are they one and the same? So that's just kind of the thought process I would have and questions that I would want answered in regards to mermaids. But As we actually, I'm going to hold you right there because we actually have, we're at the end of the hour. So to keep ourselves on track, we'll go ahead and take a break. The other stuff will be edited out just so everyone knows for rewatch value. That whole snafu will be edited out. But until then, we're going to go ahead and pause for the cause, take the first break of the night as we get ready to jump back in hour two, continue our conversation, hopefully uninterrupted, with Varla Ventura. So see you guys right back here in about 5 minutes. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio After Hour number 2 with me, your host, Mr. Rob G, and our fantastic guest, Varla Ventura. We were talking about mermaids here in the last hour, and one you mentioned another cryptid, and this is one I really had questions about. Hadn't really done a lot of research into it, and those are the fairies. You mentioned those. What exactly are we looking at, or are we talking about when we talk about fairies? I think obviously of like a Tinkerbell or something along those lines, right? I don't think it's like that though, right?
That's really very common. That is kind of the main association with fairies, is something very Tinkerbell like. And there certainly are small garden fairies that kind of hang out amongst the bees and the pollinators. There we go. But yeah, the kingdom of the fairy is actually a kind of a dark and dastardly place if you're not careful. So I kind of think of it as like, there's kind of like the greater kingdom of the fairy. I look at it like the plant kingdom, how you might classify plants. So you have the greater kingdom of plants, and then you have different genus and different species, and then different like hybrids of that. So I kind of think of it in that way, in like a taxonomical way. But really, you have a variety of creatures that the easiest way to define them is by sort of their territory. So are they forest dwellers? Do they hang out in the sea? Are they more, caught off guard in the meadowlands? That type of thing. And so there's all kinds of, I'll tell you one of my favorite fairy creatures is the Pooka. And the Pooka is a shapeshifter, and it kind of messes with people, which is delightful. Interestingly, the Pooka frequently preys on vulnerable people, like people that won't otherwise be believed, like all of us. But like the town drunk, that's like the classic like person in the story, and probably the most famous Pooka, the most famous pop culture or cultural representation of Pooka in more modern times. Of course, my modern reference is a black and white movie from the 1940s starring Jimmy Stewart, but still. And that's Harvey, and he basically talks to this giant white rabbit. More, in the 90s, we had Donnie Darko as a big black rabbit that followed you everywhere. And frequently, Pookas are seen as rabbits. They may also be seen as horses. Very often, a black horse with red eyes or a flowing mane. They frequently come upon you at night as you're stumbling home along the path that you probably shouldn't have taken after dark, and maybe had one too many, because remember, you're the town drunk in this scenario. Right? But what they'll do is they also sometimes appear as another animal. So I've heard stories of Pookas appearing as like an eagle or something like that, but most often it's a rabbit or a horse, and they will essentially just take you on a midnight ride and basically bring you to the brink of the cliff, but not drop you, because they won't harm you ultimately. Really, they exist like all trickster fairies and all trickster spirits. They exist to kind of shake things up and help you realize that, you probably need to reevaluate your situation. If you were just encountered some glowing-eyed beast in the night, you might want to just check yourself.
Yeah.
And figure out, do some reevaluation. Like, am I on the right path? That's one of my favorite fairies. So that there's the trickster fairies. There are certainly some creepy lurking things that have ill intentions. If you get too close to the bog, you'll get pulled in. You might think your foot is getting tangled on a branch, and then the next thing you know, you're being sort of like pulled in under the muck and mire. They're just, so the fairy kingdom is certainly not all light and love. There's light and love there to be had. There's a lot of helpful fairies. There's domestic fairies who do, they like to tidy up and protect crops and protect livestock and things like that, and animals. But they don't like it if you don't kind of do your part, right? So there's some punishment that can be involved. But really interesting, when I was working on this book that I wrote, specific, it's called Fairies, Pookas, and Changelings. And I was working on that. And at the time I was really digging into some of the stories that I had read about people having like a domestic fairy in their house that would help them, and how they would leave out these offerings for it. And I found multiple stories of kids in particular waking up with like scratch marks and like bruises where they had been pinched, but also sometimes like the lady of the house this would happen to. And okay, so let's just say caveat here. Most of what we have in the written folkloric record was recorded by people with an agenda, with a bias and an agenda, right? It was white men of the cloth who were recording things with their own view of the world, in which they sort of played a superior role. So a lot of times what we get are snippets of what the real story is. And that's something when, you look at old folklore from various cultures, you have to understand the layers of translation that have been lost, not just translation as in one language to the next, but translation as in actually grasping the significance and the meaning of what the storyteller was trying to say. So in any case, my point was, there were all of these stories that sounded so much like a poltergeist, but it was like a hobgoblin that was in these people's homes. It was scratching them at night. It was kind of like taking things and knocking things over and moving. It wasn't quite so much like chairs moving before your eyes, but there was a lot of destruction in the home. And I just thought it was interesting. Alien abduction and falling asleep on the fairy mound have very similar storylines. If you fall asleep on the fairy mound and you get sort of taken into this other world where things don't quite make sense, and at first they're very shiny and glamorous, and then as time wears on, you start to understand what's going on around you, and you start to get scared, and then you somehow figure out how to leave, and you wake up and you think it's only been an hour or two, and it's been days or even weeks or years. That thread, goes back to time immemorial of being sort of like kidnapped or held hostage in the fairy kingdom. So today, when you hear people's stories of, obviously there are a lot of differences, but the main thing that is really similar is the loss of time and the time shift. And, that kind of like, what happened? Where did it go? Rip Van Winkle is probably like the most famous story of that. That guy fell asleep under a tree, which obviously was a fairy tree. Ask anyone, that had to be a fairy tree. You just fall asleep and wake up 100 years later. Something has to put you under.
Mm-hmm. Now I talked to like Travis Moose, who's always here on the show, and I asked him about these sort of things, cryptids, and how that ties into the native folklore, and he talks about the little people in the forest. Are these the same things? Because he mentions a tale similar to what you told here.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The little people in the forest are among the many different types of fairies. There's a lot of cultures that believe in little people of the forest. Frequently, they are also the guardians or protectors. Yeah. They will only show themselves if you are, deemed worthy. And even if you think you're worthy, the chances are you're not.
Right.
Let's just be real, let's be real. But yeah, absolutely. And like, I know that people kind of have this I like to set the record straight when it comes to leprechauns, Rob, because I think people have this very distorted view of what a leprechaun is. And when we think of leprechauns today, we think of that, like the Lucky Charms guy.
Yeah.
And that was what an Irish man wore, an Irish immigrant wore in the mid 1800s when, after the famine, people were coming in droves to come to the United States and, try and survive and find a way to, live a new life. And so that depiction is actually, it's totally making fun of a different culture. So I actually can't stand that sort of depiction of, because it's a stereotype.
Yeah.
It's a stereotype. And, but in fact, and this actually surprised me the most because when I was researching that book, when I came upon some really interesting stories about leprechauns, number of things. Leprechauns are some of the most clever creatures in the fairy kingdom. They're really, really good at outsmarting humans. They're cobblers, so they're sort of like these hermit-like, usually male. I've never heard of a female leprechaun. Usually male, little-ish people that live in the forest, and they make all of the shoes for all the rest of the fairy kingdom. They do not wear green. They frequently wear red. And they love fabrics, and they love, you can leave them like velvets and silks. They love fabrics. They love materials. And they don't always have a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. I mean, that comes from, a rainbow is a refraction of light. You will never find the end of it.
Never.
So you'll never find the end of it. So that the idea of a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow is really just a turn of phrase to say you're chasing, it's a fool's errand, right? You won't find it because you can't get to the end of something that changes right before your eyes, because it does. It doesn't have an end. Mm-hmm. It depends on where you're standing. And so it's kind of a joke, right? It's like, well, it's at the end of the rainbow, but what they do have is they have a magic purse. And that's what everybody wants. They want this magic leprechaun purse. And in this magic leprechaun purse, there's frequently just one coin. But when you take that coin out, there's another coin. So there's sort of an infinite supply, but it's just one at a time. And there's a hilarious story. There was a really excellent storyteller called T. Crofton Croker, and he recorded a number of traditional Irish fairy tales. And there's a hilarious story there's two stories. One is the story about a guy who works so hard that he's successful, but he won't go down to the pub and hang out with everyone else. And so everyone in the town is just like, he obviously is in cahoots with the leprechauns. And they're just supplying him with money because he's so well off and that he won't share it with us. So he was ostracized for being in cahoots with this like supernatural, which you can always strike a bargain with fairy kingdom, right? So it's not implausible. But the really funny story is the guy who goes down and he catches a leprechaun. And for some reason, Rob, I don't know, probably the reason that I stated earlier about the Victorian bias, perhaps. But frequently the leprechauns in these stories are caught and they're like tied up and like, or put in like a cupboard, and the cupboard's tied up. And so it's like they're held captive. And then the idea is that as long as you hold them captive, you can get their money and they can tell you where it is. The leprechauns are very, very smart. They're smaller than us. So it's not out of the question that you could overpower them. So the great story, so leprechauns are really good at outsmarting the humans. So this great story is this man, he captures the leprechaun and he ties him up and he shoves him to the side and says, give me your purse. And so the leprechaun says, okay. I'll tell you what, I'll give you this purse. You have to promise to let me go, and I'll give you this magic purse. Or give me all your money. Give me all your money. Okay, I'll give you this one. There's only one coin in it, but when you pull that coin out, there will always be another magic coin. And so the guy relents. Oh, well, that sounds great. So he gets the purse. He lets the leprechaun go. The leprechaun, dashes off back into the forest. And the guy, of course, immediately goes down to the nearest inn, and he orders drinks on everyone, or, drinks for everyone, drinks on him. And when the barkeep says, all right, time to pay up, he very grandiosely reaches into this purse and he pulls out his single gold coin and he sets it down on the counter. And then he reaches in, and that's not enough, reaches in to get the next one, and it's empty because he didn't bother to check because his eyes just saw dollar signs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like the Wendigo is like that. There's this incessant greed that is really at the root of it. And I'm not saying it's a metaphor necessarily, because I do believe that these things exist and they have perhaps become metaphors, but it's certainly a commentary on the nature of humans to tear everything apart and try and take everything. And, that incessant greed, the logging the entire forest to get the woods and then wondering where all the birds went.
Right. So this sounds like the leprechauns. Okay, and that's actually really good to know because you have a lot of stereotypes out there, and it's good to kind of point that out because I think that's the general idea that most people get when you talk about leprechauns. So definitely good to clear that up. Now,
Set the record straight. They're intelligent and they love red velvet.
right. Now, how do they tie into, or do they even tie into gnomes? Since we're talking little people. Do they cross each other, or how do they relate? Do they relate at all?
There are certain words that are used, and so I spent a lot of time with this Welsh manuscript, or this Welsh book. And that was really interesting because the Welsh language is it's its own very unique, evolved language. And I noticed that some of the words that were sort of like half translated, it was like writing Welsh in English. And it's the same, technically it's the same alphabet, but it's not the same language at all. So there are a lot of words that are sometimes used interchangeably, like puka or gnome or goblin. But in my mind and in this grand fairy lexicon that's forever dancing behind the scenes in my imagination, I think gnomes are generally more associated with, they're a little bit more domestic, and they tend to, there's a reason that the garden gnome that we all know and love, it appears in the garden with sort of like the pointy red hat. They dwell in the forest, but they also like gardens. They like natural settings, so you can, and they're protectors. So a lot, like in Finland, there's the little tomtins, and the tomtins are pointy red-hatted guys that usually come out around, the holidays, and they protect the household. They protect the household from evils, right? Germs, illness, bad luck. Those things all go together. Crop, whatever you have in storage spoiling during the long winter. You need all the help you can get. And so these little sort of gnome-like creatures. So there's a lot of different names and counterparts, but generally, when you think of gnomes, they are either forest dwelling or they can be a little bit more domesticated, but they tend to like to be in a natural setting, and they find plants and trees to be, that's kind of their sacred domain. They don't really have a problem with humans necessarily. I think there's a nice symbiotic relationship with kind of just looking out. But they're very elusive, like a true, like it's a very elusive creature.
Now, I've heard you also say in the past, you describe your mother as a witch. So I wanted to know because when we talk about paranormal, cryptid world, how does that? Because I would assume, just like I was stating with the mermaid, so a witch would be a human, right? So not a cryptid in any way. Now, the ability that a witch has, right? So is that comparable to, say, a person who has like a psychic ability? Like what, uh, what is it that a person that is labeled a witch? What are they tapping into as far as like the energy or the power that they are utilizing? Like what would that be considered? Would it be considered like a natural uh, human ability that just is not unlocked yet, just like a psychic would be, or is it something different? Like how would you categorize that?
Yeah, so I think um, generally speaking, witches actually tap into a lot of those forces of nature. So they work with those nature spirits. They work with the fairy kingdom and the wild kingdom and the invisible kingdom. Many witches work with the dead, for example. So you have, a witch being a person that is in tune with nature, maybe has a strong grasp of the healing arts or the healing nature of plants, an affinity for animals, etc. But there are also ways that people, just like with anything, there are ways, of course, that you can develop a psychic intuition. You generally have to have that psychic intuition to begin with. But there are many different types of witches. There are people who are sort of intuitive witches. There are those that take witchcraft to, more of a religious level, initiatory witchcraft, and that doesn't mean that it's a cult. It means that the people who want to practice witchcraft together have similar beliefs, and they're taking it seriously enough, and they need to trust that those around them are taking it seriously enough to get some major magic done, because there is a lot of power if you get a group of people together with anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, a witch is so many things, right? Like traditionally, the witch was the wise woman that was consulted for the herbs to get the man, get rid of the baby, whatever it was that you needed. And eventually though they were the hedge witches and the healers, not always women, but frequently they were women, and because they were women, then it was easier to take their power and their land and their cottage and their livelihood away. It was easier to scapegoat them, and that's really what happened in the Middle Ages. In Europe, there was this witch craze. We had our own here in the United States in Salem, of course, kind of another witch craze, but in Europe, in fact, right now in Scotland, there's actually a reclamation going on. There's a government apology in place and a reclamation recognizing the thousands of women and men who were killed in the name of witchcraft, which is not a crime. Even if you are a witch and you are casting spells and doing potions, that's not a crime. It's not, so it really, I credit the Scottish government for acknowledging that.
Yeah.
Not many do. And then in Salem, of course, you had this, like, I can't even imagine, like the horrific Puritan times, the starvation that was happening. I learned something really interesting, though. So I just wrote another book, and that book is all about plant lore. But it's also the exploration of plants through fairy tales and folklore. And one of the really interesting things I learned, which, a lot of people probably know this aspect of it, but so corn, of course, is native to North America. And in order to really kind of break down the barriers in corn's makeup that releases the niacin, which is an essential vitamin, you need to add ash. And so that is really common. The potash of the Cherokee Nation, you add ash to it, and you grind the corn, and you kind of cook it down with ash, and it imparts a flavor, and it also breaks down. Indigenous wisdom and science. It's indigenous science is what it really is. So, of course, you have the colonizers who don't listen to anyone except themselves and their divine God or whatever. And so they don't get that part of the recipe. It's like they ignore that part of the recipe. So they grow all of this corn, and they send a bunch of it back to Italy. And so it becomes very popular in Italy. It grows beautifully in the Mediterranean climate. If you think of Italian food today, you think of polenta as a staple. And this was a wonderful food because there were many poor people in Italy. And so that subsistence farming of being able to make this warm, big bowl of things, but they weren't putting ash in it. So what was happening is they weren't getting their nutrients. They were having niacin deprivation, and they were becoming extremely pale. They were acting somewhat mad and running around, and they were also craving blood. So it actually really contributed to the idea of vampires in Europe during the Middle Ages. This small mistake of not breaking down the hard outer shell of the corn to release the vital nutrients. So wow. Fun, right?
Yeah. Very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah. And now you actually opened this perfect segue into vampires then. So talking about vampires. Now I grew up in love. I wanted to be a vampire as a kid. That was my one dream, was to somehow become, because I was raised in the era of Lost Boys and just all in what's the other one? Gosh, the a lot of 80s vampire movies. I can't think.
Well, there was
Fright
the
Night.
Bram Stoker's Dracula with Tom Cruise, right? First
that
one.
That too. Mm-hmm. But see, that was the thing. See, I'm more of a vampire person than a Dracula person. I don't know if that even makes sense, but just the Dracula with the cape was never really my thing. Just the raw, young vampire, like Lost Boys or Fright Night or something along those lines. Mm-hmm. So,
the Vampire Among Us, that's always delightful.
Well, yeah, I mean, just a regular person and just happen to be turned and living this eternal life. What part of that is true, based in truth? Like, what part of the vampire Dracula lore is based in truth?
Yeah, I mean, of course, today, a lot of what we think of when we think of vampire lore is based in Dracula. And Bram Stoker did a beautiful thing when he wrote that book in the mid-1800s. He drew on, he was Irish, and there are vampires. There are some very, very terrifying vampire stories in Ireland. Usually it's somebody that has been wronged and they're buried incorrectly, and then they escape and become bloodthirsty. That's typically kind of how it goes. It's usually it's either a woman who's been wronged, or it can be a man who's been wronged. A king who has been wronged is kind of the worst, right? Because then you get the whole Hamlet thing, it's coming back to haunt you. But they'll come and they'll be looking for blood. But also, it wasn't always blood. It was just the idea of the undead. As you said, that immortality element of the vampire that, was beyond the cape. So he drew on that. He drew on Irish lore. He also drew on Transylvanian and Romanian lore, including a relationship that was very common among the Roma, the gypsy people. The Roma would sort of like camp out on land of some like fancy landlord, and in exchange they would allow the most beautiful girl in the group to go up and live in the castle with the lord. So don't get me started on that.
That could go so many ways. Yeah, you're right.
It could go so many ways, but we'll just pretend it's romantic.
Yeah.
So you had that. Then you also had some really powerful stories from history, such as Vlad the Impaler, who was a Romanian warrior who was known for being bloodthirsty. He was the one who would put everybody's heads that he killed on pikes and surround his entire fortress with that, so his enemies knew what he was up to. He had a lot of ruthlessness to him. And then you also have the story of Madame Bathory, who was a well-to-do countess who was alleged to, and I say alleged, she was alleged to have, she was known to be very abusive to her female. She had many, many female servants. She had all of her ladies in waiting and many servants, and she was known to be abusive to them, in particular to the young girls. It is said that she bathed in their blood in order to keep herself beautiful, because she was supposed to be really beautiful. However, and eventually people turned on her, and she was sort of like walled up in her own home and could never leave. That was her punishment. But history has also uncovered in more recent times that she was the only female heir to quite a lofty estate. And the person who, quote unquote, turned her in was the male cousin who got everything when she was deemed a criminal. So you never know. Did she bathe in blood? I don't know. But anyway, so just back to your point, there's other things too, like in the 1600s in Scotland, in particular in Scotland, at the University of Edinburgh, they were studying medicine. And you couldn't practice medicine. It was against the law to practice on a body. It was against the church.
Okay.
And so you had some grave robbers who you could slide a few pence to, in the back alley, and they would go and get relatively fresh corpses for the medical students to work on. I mean, a lot of people don't know that, but our modern medical system is based on grave robbing.
Ooh, the nasty.
I mean, it really is. Like, and now now it's known that medical students do, perform autopsies and things like that, that people donate their bodies, but people didn't donate their bodies back then. They just got unlucky. But one of the things that would happen, people also didn't have an understanding of medicine or what happened to your body after you died. And remember that people weren't always necessarily buried deep in the ground. In some cases, they were laid out in a crypt, or they were kind of like, it just wasn't always like the 6 feet underground kind of thing that we imagine. And there's a cemetery I've been to in Edinburgh where there's a lot of vampire stories. And that one is like, it feels like everything's just poking out of the ground all the time, and it's just like, it's overcrowded.
Mm-hmm.
But when rigor mortis set, so it was really common to lay out a body and cross the arms in eternal rest, so that one hand would be on each shoulder. And then you would, sometimes you put pennies on the eyes or whatever to kind of hold the eyes down. And then you'd lay the body down, but a grave robber would come along and they'd pry open the coffin lid or bust open the crypt. And the rigor mortis would mean that the body would rise up, Nosferatu style, like kind of slowly rise up with the arms crossed because it's rigor mortis. And this gave rise to the idea that again, that idea worked its way into the lexicon of common vampire culture, of the vampire with kind of rising up out of the coffin. And then, of course, they would hightail it out of there and just say there was a vampire, so they wouldn't get caught. no one would question them, right? It's like, well, I don't want to go in there if there's a vampire either. And then, also there are, examples of people who were like perfectly preserved when they were finally unburied. And what was with that? Like, were they undead, and were they rising from the grave to, feed on the blood? Or it's not always blood. Sometimes it's just like the life essence of the living. Mm-hmm. And, I completely believe it, because I have been around vampires. I've been around people who are, identify as vampires. I have friends that identify as vampires and, do the whole like vampire glam thing and go to vampire balls and conduct vampire magic rituals. And then I've been around those vampires that are like, just, they don't even, it's like, I don't know, they're just jerks, right? They just suck all your energy. Or they're not even always jerks. They're just sort of like really demanding and needy, and you don't realize it until after you're gone, and then you just feel really exhausted. Yeah. We've all been around those sort of emotional vampires, is what they're called. So all those things kind of feed into vampire lore. So there's little tidbits of truth in all of the kind of things that we think of as far as a vampire. But the idea of the undead, that goes back, that goes way back. Some of it does have to do with our lack of understanding of what happens to a body after you die. Same thing with zombies. There's a whole kind of like zombie culture and misunderstanding about what a zombie is, why you might want a zombie, why you might want to do zombie magic, all of those kind of things. But there's also a lot of people. I mean, today it's 2024, and I feel like every couple of weeks I read a story about someone waking up at their own funeral, right?
Scary.
And there are a lot of things in a lot of substances and things that people can ingest and not realize, or be given in their cup of tea at night because they did something wrong, and those things can put you into like a zombie-like slumber. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I've read stories about it, and every single time it's creepy, and it generally happens in those countries where they don't pull your insides out and embalm you first. They kind of just put you right in the casket, and that just, when I read those stories, it always makes me think of how many times has maybe that happened at the hands of, like in a westernized country, where they essentially, if you are in a coma-like state and they are unaware of that, then they're essentially taking you out. You know what I mean? And it's like, how many times has that really happened? You have to think. And it's
I know. Well, embalming wasn't really a thing until the Civil War. That's when embalming became a thing, because you had to ship bodies at long distances. Prior to that, if someone died overseas, they were just buried wherever they were. But there was this great effort to try and return bodies back to, wherever they had come from. And the practice of embalming was kind of born out of that. But prior to that, it didn't exist. So, of course, the Egyptians had a super effective method for that, right? They did a whole autopsy and the mummification and the preservation of the different organs in the jars and all of that. So that's an ancient practice. But as far as like, modern US, like, they were just, and that's like everybody's worst nightmare, that they would I think it's a universal nightmare that you would either like wake up and not be able to communicate at all and be conscious and hear people around you. It's that like eternal sleep paralysis, that or being buried alive. And there are a number of things that people did to try and avoid being buried alive, and also to ward off grave robbers. So if you're ever in an old cemetery and you see like a cage, like an iron cage, like over the top of the grave, there are a lot of those in Edinburgh, actually. That's to prevent grave robbing. So not only do you have to afford the marble headstone, you also have to afford an entire like iron cage to.
And it just, when you just talk about it, it just makes you think so less of human beings. Like there are humans that would stoop so low as to go and mess with the dead, and it just bothers me. And there's
Right.
living people there. That's what they accused the people in Peru of doing, and putting together the little mummy, grave robbing, and that is just a sick thing. You have to be really low to do that. I don't.
Well, you know what's lower though? What's lower, I think, than being the person that actually goes and does it is being the privileged medical student that pays someone to do it for you. I think that's lower.
Yeah.
Because that's like, I don't know. There's just something else about that is difficult to swallow. But yeah, I mean, we are constantly doing that. You know, one of the best I took a really fantastic. It was an archaeology class. It was back in the early 2000s from this woman named Mary Reddick at San Francisco City College, and she got in there and she immediately like angered all the students by saying, maybe you just should not dig it up. That's where she was coming from. And I was like, well, wait a minute. That is a really good point.
Right.
Why are we excavating this? Why are we excavating the sites of indigenous cultures instead of just listening to the indigenous culture that's from that area and finding out what their history is through oral history and demonstration and like respect and reverence? No, we're going to just like pull out a piece of pottery from a grave and analyze it under a microscope and tell you what it's made of.
And if we'll do that to ourselves, there's no wonder why the ETs won't allow us to join the Galactic Federation. Who would allow barbarians like humans out there into maybe a controlled environment where all we'll do is go and pillage and dig up the dead and do all sorts of things that don't make sense and that's one of the things that I always come back to. I'm like, are we really ready to even go out there on this level and take this current version of humanity out into the cosmos? And I would have to say probably no. And it's a good thing they're keeping us here.
Also, have to say too late. It's probably already happened, and we're just like, oh, please represent us well.
That's the thing. So the secret space program.
What's on that gold record that's floating around out there for someone to find?
Exactly. Like, here lies humans. But that's the thing. I think with all the bad things that we do, they have to be sitting back looking at us like, gosh, you guys need help. I mean, nuclear weapons all the way down to just the way we treat each other and what we'll do to the most sacred things that are supposed to be sacred, like in death. Like, you can't even rest as being dead, dealing with human beings. And that's just a sad state of affairs.
It's true. Well, you said something where you brought up the nuclear weapons. I was just thinking about like all the underground missile testing that they do, underwater missile testing. Mm-hmm. And you'll see, like, you look in the Pacific, you look at the map of the Pacific, you can go on Google Maps and look at a map of the Pacific, and it'll say this is the such and such testing site, but it's only contained to this area. Have you not seen, like, did you not learn anything in like sixth grade science about water. Like,
right, exactly.
It doesn't contain. You have to put a container around it to contain. It's a liquid. We got solid, liquid, and gas, people. Like, if you're exploding something in the water, it's not contained.
Exactly.
So I was just like going back to the idea of like, I don't know, if I heard something like that, if I was a mermaid, I would run, hide, and never come out again.
That's what I mean. And then with the ETs living underwater as well, like you said, all those tests, like the Bikini Atoll, where they have one of the actual islands where they have stored all the nuclear waste from those tests, and they put it under a concrete slab or a concrete dome that can deteriorate over so much time. And it's just like, when you look at that and you think, I mean, right now it's out of sight, out of mind for a lot of people because we don't have to deal with that on a daily basis, but it's out there and it's just sitting there. And the ETs have to be, that's why I always wonder how they perceive human beings when they look at us, because if they're looking over the total, we don't make a lot of good decisions as human beings. And I think they see that. And it's sad.
We don't make a lot of good decisions. I think there's a collective effort to get better.
Hopefully.
I'm an optimist. I do think there's a collective effort to get better. I mean, you certainly see that. You got all your spaced out listeners. They're collective effort to get better, but it doesn't even have anything to do with like, whether you believe in aliens, you don't believe in aliens. It's that, there are opportunities every day for humanity to do the right thing. And so if everybody is just, 2 or 3 times a day doing the right thing. But you asked about witches, and that's one of the biggest tenets of witchcraft is harm none, right? Like, and that doesn't mean that you can't occasionally be vengeful, right? There are members of the witchcraft community that feel perfectly comfortable with hexes and curses. And quite frankly, I'm with them, right? I just, like, some people just, they need to be hexed. There's just no way. There's no two ways about it. But at the same time, the idea isn't so much, it's a very similar things to like, the East Indian idea of karma. It's a totally, what you put out there comes back. So if you're going to put out a bunch of like jerky, nuclear waste, and you're just going to be a jerk, right? Then people are going to be a jerk to you, and then you're going to be a bigger jerk.
Right.
But witches have the ability, ideally, like, and this is where like the initiatory witchcraft comes into play, to really kind of like transcend that idea that what I do and what comes back to me, and transcend it beyond to like really working for the greater good of humanity through witchcraft, and really trying to protect those who need protection, really trying to give voice to those who don't have a voice. So, there's an element of that everyone can kind of relate to, right? With like, honestly, everybody should just get on board with the witches. Just let Salem run it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, like I said,
there's room at the table for all of us with the witches.
Right.
Trust me.
And so with that being said, I have like a few questions. So just one about the paranormal, ghosts, hauntings, things like that. What would you consider as far as communicating with the other side? The best way to communicate, would that be, in your opinion, through like Ouija boards or seances, or what would probably be the best form of communication with the other side?
Well, I tend to do a lot of things in a solitary manner. So for me, I frequently use solitary ritual. And the number one way that I try and communicate with someone that I love, and that is dead, is to kind of create like an altar, even like a mini altar to that person, have something, an object of theirs, be holding an object of theirs. Maybe I'll use like a tarot card or something like that for some guidance, but usually like an object that belonged to that person, a candle, and the right intention, and you can make contact. I have no issue with Ouija boards. In fact, I love them. But I think the big problem with Ouija boards is that it's a super, again, here we have, it's a trespassing into the sacred with zero preparation in mind. So, a bunch of 11-year-old girls at a pajama party are not equipped to protect themselves and to treat it as a sacred ritual.
Right.
And so that's where you run into problems with the Ouija board. And the other thing about the Ouija board is it's like kind of creepy because it's like words and letters. And so seeing like these kind of direct messages can be disconcerting for some people. But I think if you're really trying to make contact with someone, it kind of comes down to the intention that you have and what you're asking of them. If you're asking for a sign, if you're asking for help, if you're asking for guidance from the ancestors, just remember to say thank you as you would with anyone in the living. And, there's certain times of year, of course, like Halloween time, Dia de los Muertos, where we have like really the veil is thinner. Samhain, you really have an excellent opportunity worldwide to kind of create this create altars and make offerings to our loved ones. But honestly, sometimes I have, if I do something like hold an object and light a candle or set an intention, I very frequently will make contact with that dead person in the dream state. I have a lot of, I think we all do. We will dream of our dead ancestors in our dreams. They'll come to us and they'll have messages for us. So you can be very intentional about that, and you can ask. I mean, that's the best thing you can do. Oh, the other thing is, don't ask. And I learned this actually from, this is like the best book on it. This is my friend Christian Day, The Witch's Book of the Dead. I mean, he knows what he's doing. Look at him.
Exactly.
He's amazing. But one of the best pieces of advice he had about working with the dead was, if you need help with something financial, don't call upon an ancestor that died penniless. If you want help with something that is creative, don't call upon the ancestor that was an accountant. Know what you're asking for and tap into the right person. For most of us, it's guidance and protection. So there's a natural person that we go to and we think, okay, grandma. But that's important. Like knowing, not everybody can do everything. It's, you can't ask, you don't ask a car salesman to tie your shoes, right? Like there's just like certain things you don't do. So that's important. You're like knowing what you're asking for and what you're asking of that ancestor.
All right. Now I got a 2-part question here for you. So what part of this phenomena really gets you going or keeps you motivated?
So one of the things I find probably most interesting about communication with the dead, the practice of magic, connecting with other spirits, and even the exploration of folklore is, I actually really like to look at the history of it, and I find it pretty fascinating the way in which the rise of spiritualism, which today, like what we're all talking about, when we talk about woo, that's based on the practice of spiritualism. And spiritualism was the belief that was established really as a religion, 1830s, and kind of was popular until the 1930s, but it still exists today. And it wasn't just that we could make contact with the divine and the dead, but it was that the dead had messages to bring to us. And it really took off post-Civil War when we had mass casualties in every household. But I find it very interesting to look back and see, in particular, the role of women during that time and how little women were allowed to do in terms of culture and like what occupation they could have and how much money they could have and what rights they had. And that this was sort of spiritualism, perhaps because it was at first thought of as like a delightful hobby, until Mary Todd Lincoln started conducting seances in the White House. And then it became much more legitimate, and it actually brought quite a few women a great deal of notoriety and quite a few women out of poverty. So it's very interesting. So that I find fascinating, because every time I read about a woman that did this like crazy thing in 1822, it leads me to another person who did this, and it's very interesting that era of American history, the connection between suffragists who were women's rights advocates and the abolitionists who were voting for the freedom of slaves. It was really like a lot of overlap with the spiritualist community, which is fascinating to me and not talked about that much. So that's really interesting to just kind of explore the different people that were really trying to make a change in the world, and also doing it with ghosts.
Right. Right.
Like us today.
Now
it was cool. So I love that.
Even so, equal to the last question, what part of the phenomenon really scares you to death?
Well, we didn't talk about banshees.
Okay, let's go ahead.
Yeah, banshees are pretty scary. So banshees, they sort of straddle something. Not a big fan of the black-eyed children either. But banshees, they straddle something between the ghost world and the fairy kingdom. And the word banshee is actually Irish for of the fairy mound. But the problem with banshees is that if you hear one or you see one, someone's gonna die, and it's probably someone you know and love.
Ooh.
So it's pretty scary. So whenever banshees literally will run chills down my spine, but I also kind of like that. So
yeah, well, yeah, it depends on how you look at it. So what are they physically? Are they creatures, or are they as a force, an entity? Like, what are they?
So they appear either as a beautiful woman or an older woman. And then they'll sort of transform. And so you'll see them, they'll look more like a physical thing. Sometimes they'll be sort of more ethereal. But like, for example, you might see this like little old lady, and then she sort of transforms into this banshee. It's like it kind of tricks you. And their signature is this really loud, long, mournful moan. If you've ever been to an Irish wake and you've heard Irish keening, it's basically that wailing. So if you hear that, not a good sign. They will also sometimes appear like a beautiful woman with like they're frequently depicted in like art as a woman with like long black flowing hair. La Llorona is actually totally like a counterpart to the banshee. This is the woman who's sometimes seen alongside roads and lakes in Mexico, and has this very like mournful cry. And so some people say that banshees are mourning forever because of the loss of a child, or because they harmed their child. Sometimes it's women who have died in childbirth. It's believed that their spirits go on to be banshees, forever mourning. But there's a lot of like, technically a banshee is Irish, and it's only inherited by certain families in Ireland. They can kind of like inherit this banshee. I say, did you inherit the banshee, or did you inherit the ability to see the banshee? Right? Did you inherit the second sight? But there are counterparts to the banshee around the world. It might be a woman in white who appears to warn you of death, or La Llorona, for example. So these are the idea of something sort of warning you of death. They don't cause the death. They just warn you that it's coming, which is worse, right?
Yeah.
It's worse. It's worse to be warned of the death and not know and be powerless and helpless to it. So I think they are just way up there and probably underrated with their level of terror.
Yeah.
Because it's usually someone you love, right? Like that's it's not you. You're not going to hear your own death. If you did, you wouldn't survive to tell the tale, and we wouldn't know about banshees. So
true.
It's usually someone you love.
And I hear that about shadow people too, which is why I'm so afraid.
Shadow people are pretty creepy. Yeah.
And I have a shadow person, and that's the thing here in this house. And I heard the stories about how it could mean this or it could mean that. It could mean someone's gonna get hurt. It could mean all these different things. But I'm living with one, and it's it's just an ongoing thing right now.
I think that shadow people are trying to teach us something that we don't understand about our own internal darkness and the darkness of the world. That's what I think they are. And unfortunately, they frequently appear and attach to people who don't deserve it.
Yeah, and I'm going to show you mines because we're here, and I'm just going to show you mines. Because why not if you got the receipts?
So, look at that.
Right in the hallway there. And if you zoom in, that's in my house. So kind of living with this thing or this guy or whatever it is. I'm living with it, and so that's where we're at.
Yeah.
So
that's pretty creepy.
Pretty creepy.
Have you asked it to leave?
I have spoken to this thing before. I have spoken into the air. You know what I mean? Like I've literally. Yeah. I had things stepping on the roof, and I'm going out there, and I'm like, just leave us alone. Like I hear you, okay? Yeah. I hear you, okay? You made your point. Now just go ahead and leave, or along those lines, and that's about where we've been. I thought it was gone because this is from roughly November, December of 2022, and I didn't hear anything or have any other things going on until about a month ago, where we heard this knocking clear as day, like this, middle of the day. It triggered our Ring cameras, and our Ring cameras recorded the knocking, and the dogs went crazy, and there was no one here knocking. So,
oh dear,
yeah. Varla,
you got a ghost.
See, that's the thing. So I know we're gonna be able to, once we're gonna do this show. I have to invite you over to the after hours when we can do this without the snafu that we had today, because I have a lot of other things to bring up with you. So what I'll say is, I know we're supposed to have Robin come in at some point tonight. So what I'll do, even though I'm sure we could talk for at least the rest of the show, but I'll put the invite out there for you if you want to come on to the after hours, and we can set that up, because I would love to talk to you some more.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay, well, Varla, you're obviously an awesome author, so can you tell everyone where they can pick up your stuff at?
Yeah, my books are available. They're remarkably, they're all still in print. You can get them anywhere books are sold. They're available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, bookshop.org, all your local little bookstores. You just go in there and say, can you order me something by Varla Ventura? VarlaVentura.net is my website. So that's a couple of V's thrown in there. And that's where you can find out stuff about me, or, stalk me on Facebook or something.
Well, once again, Varla, you've been awesome today. I appreciate you hanging in there. And while we work through this, the replay will have the snafu deleted. So just so you guys know, on the rewatch, it'll be seamless. So outside of that, I appreciate you for coming in tonight, Varla. It's been awesome. We made it work. And I'll talk to you soon so we can get that set up.
Yes. Thanks, Rob. You have a great rest of your night.
You too.
Good luck with the next guest.
I know.
Oh, wait. I almost was going to click out, but I have to hang up.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Have a good one. Take care.
Okay. Good night.
Mm-hmm. Good night. All right, guys. So, did we work through that or did we work through that? I think we got that down. Appreciate Varla and her understanding there. So, we are supposed to have Robin come in for hour 3, and I'm definitely hoping we can make that work as seamless as possible. We did this thing, a great conversation. We worked through it, and I'm glad we did because I've been waiting to talk to Varla. Varla's so fun to talk to, and we'll have to do this again when everything is running correctly, and it'll be even better than this. Imagine that. Better than what we just went through. So appreciate you, Varla. We'll do this again. And you guys, we're going to go ahead and pause for the cause as we get ready for the last and final break of the night. Right here at Spaced Out Radio. You guys kick back and we'll try to get everything set up for hour 3. We'll see you guys in just a minute.
If you love your woo, it's time to make a commitment to the 3rd annual SOR Fan Party. This time, we're heading to Reno, Nevada and the Silver Legacy Casino and Resort, May 10th through 12th, 2024. Tickets are $60 or $100 for VIP. With that, you get a free radio show. You get to hang out with celebrity guests from Spaced Out Radio, including our team, who are coming to hang out with you. You get to meet the entire team, like Science Bob, Merle, Melinda Leslie, Geraldina Roscoe, and more. It's a weekend packed with adventure, and we want you there. After all, we're doing this for you. Find out more and get your tickets at info@spacedoutradio.com and book your hotels today at the Silver Legacy Casino and Resort in Reno, Nevada. Come join us for the SOR Fan Party, May 10th through 12th, 2024. Hey everyone, guess what? We do not have ugly swag. We have Spaced Out Radio gear that you're going to want to wear. Why? Because no one wants to wear ugly clothing. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com and go shopping today. You'll be glad you did. And it's a great way to support our show. Once you get your gear, send us a picture of you rocking out in your SOR swag. spacedoutradio.com. Shop there today. And make yourself look good.
All right. So, welcome back to Space Out Radio after hour number 3. So what's going on right now is our guest for hour 3, Robin, is actually somewhere where they're experiencing power outages. It's actually where Dave Scott is flying into. So there's a bunch of stuff, right? So all the stars have aligned tonight to put roadblocks in front of a lot of different people who have to do with putting on this show. And so, as we sit here and speak, our hour 3 guest Robin is not going to be able to make it in based on that, and then that is also affecting Dave Scott's travel plans. Where he's flying into, the power is out there, right? So he has to be rerouted. So a bunch of stuff going on behind the scenes. Could not ask for a worse set of circumstances and events to kind of play out. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to just figure out what we're doing here for the last part of this show here, and hope that everything gets better for Jessica and everybody out there in Nebraska right now. So yeah. Okay, so with that being said, normally with After Hours, we have some stuff that we can go ahead and bring up here, but we're in Dave's setup, so we don't actually have everything that I need. But we're gonna go ahead and try to do. Yeah, we might as well, Jennifer. I mean, we really. Based on we don't have our hour 3 guest due to those circumstances, we're going to have to definitely do some filler here. I know, definitely bummer, right? Bummer, but the show must go on. And that's the thing with live broadcast. You can go so long without things happening, and then one day everything happens at once. So at the very least, we will be definitely closing this show out with a little bit of trivia. And I have these questions here that we had gone over before. So actually, that's kind of like a cheater, right? That's the you get the answer. The what do you call that? I ain't been in school so long. It's the answer sheet. We'll just call it that, right? So a lot of these you guys know, and based on that fact alone, this should be pretty competitive as far as who's answering what. So we'll go ahead and get into some of that. Let me get some, and we'll have to make sure, because I can't have this for tomorrow night's show. Which tomorrow night we'll be having UAP PD, but we're going to have to work out this audio thing and before tomorrow. So let's go ahead and see what we can do. I don't have my normal trivia music, so we're going to have to pick something off the list here. Let's see, what do we got? How do we feel about this? We'll roll with it for now. All right, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to make lemonade out of lemons tonight, and we're going to go ahead and finish off the last bit of this show with a little bit of trivia, just kind of test your knowledge as a person within ufology, right? There's a lot of terminology. There's a lot of history within ufology, and kind of going over these questions really, for people that may not have known the answers, kind of educates you, right, and gets you to a point to where you have an understanding of the history, right, and terminology within ufology, along with cryptids and all those other things. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and do that. Let me make sure that I have a YouTube chat up so I can see who is the winner here. And I just gotta apologize, guys, for it, because I feel, even though technical issues are out of my control here, nothing that I can fix, but I just hate, I'm all about presentation, right? And I really hate that that the presentation isn't on point tonight. I feel obligated to make sure that we get through the show. So with that being said, let me go ahead and get into this chat. Totally not my swag though. You guys already know how we do. All right, so let's go ahead and just get into this. Let's go. All right, jumping into some of these trivia questions. Like I said, you're going to know the answer. You may not know the answer off the bat, but the whole point is that you listen in. That way you can store the answer in your mental database, and then you walk away a winner because you now have been educated on what it is that we're talking about here. So get your fingers ready. Let's go ahead and get through this here. All right, first question is going to be UFOs. In 1947, what location became famous for the supposed crash of a UFO? 1947, what location became famous for the supposed crash of a UFO? Going in here and let's see. All right, so it looks like Paranormal got it. It is Roswell, New Mexico. And I call Roswell, New Mexico the original cover-up, right? It's the cover-up that started all cover-ups, because they came out initially and they said that what they recovered was a crashed disc. Then they turned around the next day, came back and said, nope, it was a weather balloon. Then they came back 50 years after that and said, oh no, it was a top secret test that we were doing, and just a cover up for the cover up, the original cover up. All right, good job, Paramar, appreciate that. And looking at this, question number 2, what legendary sea monster is said to inhabit the waters of Scotland's Loch Ness? What legendary sea monster is said to inhabit the waters of Scotland's Loch Ness? Yeah, we can go with Van Gogh. We can go with Van Gogh because it's your namesake, right? And you're the first one up in here. Van Gogh, LVL, right? Lovey love. Great job. Loch Nessa, we will take that for an answer. Great job. All right, so this one is a space question. Let's get into that. What is the largest planet in our solar system? In our solar system, what is the largest planet? Unbelievably large, actually, when you think about it. The gas giant, better known as Jupiter. Maggie M10 got that. Maggie M10. Let's teach them tonight, Maggie M10. Let's teach them tonight. Where's the, see your answer here. Okay. Maggie M10 says Jupiter, which is the largest planet in our solar system, as far as we know of. Now, if you believe in planet X, then that one might be the biggest one, if that's a real thing. I guess time will tell, because some people believe it's on a like a on an extended orbit, so we don't know, but we'll see. Right now it is Jupiter. Good job, Maggie M10. Let's go ahead and jump into the paranormal. In paranormal investigations, what device is often used to communicate with spirits by detecting changes in electromagnetic fields? In paranormal investigations, what device is often used to communicate with spirits by detecting changes in electromagnetic fields? Uh-oh. Mackie M10 is on a roll. Mackie M10 is teaching them tonight. It's an EMF reader, which EMF is standing for electromagnetic field meter. EMF meter. So those who didn't know that, put that in your mental database, because that is the answer. Great job, Mackie M10. Okay, moving down the list. This one's easy. Should see everyone getting this one. This is a UFO question. What does UFO stand for? Everybody knows that. What does UFO stand for? Slow responses on. Yeah, okay. There we go. That's the easiest question today. It took so long to get the answer, but Paramarv did come out with the answer. Unidentified flying object. That is UFO. Not to be confused with UAP, right? That's what they say. Go ahead, Paramarv. Let them know. Appreciate you chiming in there. Let's go ahead and jump into the next question here. Okay, for my Aussies, it stands for UAP. Funny, Paramarv. We're glad Dave's not here. Okay, so for our Aussie viewers, you guys should get this immediately. In Australian folklore, what large ape-like creature is said to inhabit the remote forest? In Australian folklore, what large ape-like creature is said to inhabit the remote forests? And it looks like Tomatman got it first. It's a yowie. It is a yowie, which I think is the same thing as Sasquatch and Bigfoot, I believe. So if you didn't know that, like I said, put in your mental database. You are winning with knowledge tonight. You're walking away with knowledge if you don't walk away with the win, and it's just as important to know these things. So next one is a space question. This is a space question. What is the name of the closest galaxy to the Milky Way? The closest galaxy to the Milky Way is what? It is Andromeda. Andromeda, which some say is on a collision course with the Milky Way galaxy, and it should obliterate us at some point down the line. Who knows? We won't be here to see it happen, but that is the correct answer to Mothman. Andromeda is the closest galaxy to the Milky Way. All right, jumping back into this, we got let's see. Okay, what ancient structure is often associated with theories of extraterrestrial involvement due to its precise construction? What ancient structure is often associated with theories of extraterrestrial involvement due to its precise construction? We will go with Puck Elf. It is a pyramid. It is the pyramids. And truthfully, you could probably say any of the pyramids, but the answer is the Great Pyramid of Giza. I won't hold you to that. Puck Elf, you got that one. It is the pyramids. It is the pyramids. It's time to expand your mind, open your mind up, and let's get it right. So great job, Puck Elf. That is the Great Pyramid of Giza or pyramids, either one. This is a UFO question. Which incident involving multiple claimed UFO sightings and encounters occurred in the U.S. state of Arizona in 1997? This is one of those white UFO on the White House lawn moments. Happened in 1997 in the great state of Arizona. And that is going to be the Phoenix Lights. Going to Maggie M10, who is running away with the contest tonight. I don't see much competition right now. Maggie M10 is crushing it. It is the Phoenix Lights, 1997. My buddy Tom King, man, you guys may know Tom King. Was one of the guys who filmed the Phoenix Lights. They always show his footage whenever they need to license footage, and definitely to know someone that was a part of that sighting is pretty epic. And if you know anything about Tom King, his sky watching is unmatched. Okay, this is a cryptid question, and it's not really, this is more of a mythical sort of situation. So what mythical creature, often depicted as a horse with a single horn on its forehead, is known for its healing powers? What mythical creature, often depicted as a horse with a single horn on its forehead, is known for its healing powers? All right, Maggie M10 with unicorn. That would be a unicorn. When I was a kid, I'd always wanted to see a unicorn, right? I don't know if I'll ever see one, but that was my hope as a kid. Space question. What famous space telescope has provided valuable images and data since its launch in 1990? What famous telescope has provided valuable images and data since its launch in 1990? Yep, Lex Diaz got that. That is the Hubble telescope, which has been replaced essentially by the James Webb telescope, which has actually raised more questions than answers, right? Because now we have a different understanding of how this universe may have started, or when it may have started, how old it is. Things aren't adding up. So I think we're actually going through one of those science revision periods right now, where what we've been told for the last 20 years will be revised. So good job, Lex Diaz. Hubble telescope it is. Hubble telescope it is. UFO question. Which government department in the United States conducted investigations into UFO sightings from 1952 to 1969? Which government department in the United States conducted investigations into UFO sightings from 1952 to 1969? And we're kind of living through a part 2 of this right now. I will go with that, Mothman. Blue Book. Project Blue Book, right? And then it's led to the Condon report. Kind of the same, like we're reliving, it's like Groundhog Day, right? Reliving through the same time over and over again is what we're doing with this. Let's put together a committee to study this, and then let's come out in the end and say there's nothing to this. So we're doing it again and again and again and again, which is why I say quit focusing on the government. They won't bring disclosure. But great job to Mothman. It is Project Blue Book. Project Blue Book it is. I like that though, Christine. That's funny as heck. Yeah, that's very funny. Okay, yeah. And so, and let's put it like this. So everyone says, oh no, it's because they're closer to you. Maggie M10 is in Australia, guys. Literally on the other side of the world. So let's not blame where we are in the world on who gets to answer first. Great job, Maggie M10. You're killing it. All right, next one. What humanoid creature with the ability to shapeshift is prominent figure in Native American folklore? They have a ranch named after this. There's a famous ranch. What humanoid creature with the ability to shapeshift is a prominent figure in Native American folklore? Maggie M10. She's okay. Y'all better watch Maggie M10. She is not playing tonight. Skinwalker would be definitely the answer. definitely the answer. All right. Great job, Maggie. And 10. She is definitely on another continent, Paramar. but and I'm glad she's crushing like this, because that takes that theory out the window, right? So thanks for disproving the theory on that too, Maggie and 10. You're actually doing a great service tonight. Okay, space question. You guys have heard this one before. You should be pretty quick on this one. What is the name of the phenomenon where a massive star collapses under its own gravity, resulting in a powerful explosion? What is the name of the phenomenon where a massive star collapses under its own gravity, resulting in a powerful explosion? Ooh. Maggie M10 again, supernova. Maggie M10 is killing it. She is killing it. Maggie M10. And these are questions, these are cryptid space questions, UFO questions. So this is a mixture of all. And Maggie M10 is showing out tonight. So let me see. Okay, paranormal question. What term is commonly used to describe the alleged ability to perceive events or information without using the known human senses? What term is commonly used to describe the alleged ability to perceive events or information without using the known human senses? All right, looks like Paramarv got this one. It is ESP. ESP. All right, these are all terms within our community that we use on a daily. Some people may not know what ESP meant. Now you do. Now you know what ESP is. Extrasensory perception. ESP. Great job. Great job. UFO question. Which U.S. military facility is often associated with conspiracy theories involving extraterrestrial technology and UFO research? Which U.S. military facility is often associated with conspiracy theories involving extraterrestrial technology and UFO research? The good old Area 51. That is right. Lex Diaz got that. And I've been right there to the black mailbox. Have not been to the gate yet. That is the next thing I'm gonna do. I was with my girl and we got to the black mailbox. And she was afraid to go any further. We started going down the dirt road, the gravel road, and she got pretty scared and wanted to go back. So I was like, now I gotta go without her. So yeah, I'll have to go without her. So good job, Lex Diaz. Area 51, which I don't think they're doing anything there anymore. But hey. Cryptid question. In Scottish folklore, what mythical water creature is known for its melodious singing and luring sailors to their demise? Not what we talked about earlier with Varla, though. But this is definitely something different. Scottish folklore, the mythical water creature known for its melodious singing and luring sailors to their demise. Not a mermaid. And this may be a form of mermaid, I'm not sure. But we are learning this one together. Nope. If I need to, I'll give you the answer. It's okay, I don't see it, so I'll give it to you. It's Kelpie. Kelpie. Scottish folklore, mythical water creature known for its melodious singing and luring sailors to their demise. That would be Kelpie. Okay, space question. What is the name of the first artificial satellite launched into Earth's orbit? What is the name of the first artificial satellite launched into Earth's orbit? It It would be Sputnik. It would definitely be Sputnik. So Maggie M10 killing it again. Maggie M10 is coming with the knowledge today. Just crushing. Wow. Where do you learn all this, Maggie M10? Where do you learn all this? Great job. Okay. Paranormal question. What famous paranormal investigator duo gained popularity for their work and cases inspiring books and movies? What famous paranormal investigator duo gained popularity for their work and cases inspiring books and movies? Many movies. Many movies made from this duo. It's not the dynamic duo, Lex Diaz. Hey, okay. Yep, she's not playing tonight, guys. Maggie M10, it is Ed and Lorraine Warren, the Warrens, as we know, that had to do with the Conjuring and all those movies there. But I've heard some people say, that some of their stories may not have been what they seem. So I don't know, something you can look into. But let's see. Okay, so let's see here. What do we got? We got about 10 minutes here, so we're going to crush this down to a few questions here. Okay. Okay, space question. What is the name of the phenomena where light from a celestial body is blocked by another, creating a temporary dimming effect? What is the name of the phenomenon where light from a celestial body is blocked by another, creating a temporary dimming effect? Okay. Yeah, we'll take that. So Maggie M10 got eclipse. It is an eclipse, although it listed as a stellar eclipse. I don't think that's going to matter. It is definitely an eclipse. So great job, Maggie M10. And let's see. Let me find another here. Space question. What type of celestial object is a remnant of a massive star that has exhausted its nuclear fuel and undergone gravitational collapse? What type of celestial object is a remnant of a massive star that has exhausted its nuclear fuel and undergone gravitational collapse? Yep, Lex Diaz, it is a black hole. It is a black hole, and we want to stay away from those because it'll tear this planet to pieces, and anything in its path will be obliterated. So, not a good thing, but good job, Lex Diaz. We don't want to see that. We do not want to see that. Okay. Okay. Cryptid question, right? What mythical creature, often depicted as a horse with wings, is a symbol of inspiration in various mythologies? What mythical creature, often depicted as a horse with wings, is a symbol of inspiration in various mythologies? All right, Lex Diaz got that. It is Pegasus. It is a Pegasus. Pegasus. When I think of it, I think of who is it? It's one of those movie companies that has that creature or that character. All right, nice. Okay. Let's see. I don't know that this one will be okay. Let's do this one. Space question. What term describes the hypothetical concept of a spacecraft traveling faster than the speed of light, allowing it to surpass the limitations of normal space travel? What term describes the hypothetical concept of a spacecraft traveling faster than the speed of light, allowing it to surpass the limitations of normal space travel? Yep, we'll go with that. Tomato-Man got it. Warp speed. Warp speed. That is awesome. Let me see what time it is. We got like 6 minutes. Yeah, okay. We'll do one more question. We'll do one more. Space question. What is the name of the massive cloud of icy bodies located on the outskirts of our solar system beyond the orbit of Pluto? What is the name of the massive cloud of icy bodies located on the outskirts of our solar system beyond the orbit of Pluto? All right, looks like Tomato-Man got that. It'd be the Oort cloud. The Oort cloud. All right, great job, Tomato-Man. So we'll go ahead and tally it up. So this is who knew, right? So starting from the beginning, who knew the answers to these off bat, right? Were you surprised by some of the answers? At the end of the day, it's just about absorbing these answers just so you get your knowledge up on the things that we talk about every day. We talk about these things, all these things and topics and questions apply to the field that we're in, and it's definitely important for you to know these answers and just become familiar with the answers. Start to memorize them, get your knowledge up, right? This is where it all starts. So let's go ahead and take a look at who got what. And starting out, we got Paranormal with 1, 2, 3. I think we're safe to say we know who the winner is, but we'll just run through the motions. We got Maggie M10. So it's Paranormal with 3. We got Maggie M10 with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Maggie M10 with 9. Leader so far, safe to say, is probably going to be the winner. We got Tomato-Man with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Got Puck Elf with 1. Okay, we got Lex Diaz with 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and looks like that's it. So winner tonight, crushed it, and thanks for your support tonight, is Maggie M10. Maggie M10 with the awesome super chat, appreciate you. And you crushed it tonight. You took everybody to school on the trivia. But like I said, Maggie M10 walks away a winner, but so does everybody else, because you soaked up the knowledge. You soaked up the data. So next time we do something like this, we may just run the same questions, because it's not about asking the different questions. It's about getting you to know the answers to all the questions. That's really the goal, so that you walk away off the back, you know these answers. And then we move on, right? So glad we could do this tonight. Maggie M10 kicked butt. Probably worse than I've seen anybody else get smashed. So Maggie M10, congratulations on that. It's been awesome. So yeah, with that being said, here's where we're at, right? Trials and tribulations of a live show, right? When it's good, it's good. When it's not, it's rocky, right? So definitely appreciate you guys sticking through that, because I know getting, this happened at the beginning of the show, so it's really hard to kind of still stick by and stand on with us through that. But I'm glad that you did, because I think what we did get out of tonight's conversation was an awesome interview with Varla, even though we have to run that one back and we have to redo that, because I would love to speak to Varla without any of the hiccups that we experienced tonight. And like I said, it must be in the stars, because our hour 3 guest Robin McCrae is down with no power, right, down in Nebraska, and that's where Dave Scott has gone for the convention. So definitely, let's wish them well out there, and I hope everything comes together for Dave, because I know he's flown a long way to leave from British Columbia to get here to the United States, just to run into a no power situation and be diverted is not cool at all. And so I'm really more concerned about what's going on with them than the hiccups that we had tonight. But I definitely appreciate you guys sticking, because that's what family does, right? We kind of stick together and we get through it. And I'll tell you what, this we're going to edit that first part out of the show, so it'll get right into the Varla Ventura interview. And I think from there, the show did pretty well. We'll have to run it back. We'll make sure that tomorrow we're going to have to test the audio, because it sounded good for me, but it didn't for you guys. And that's what matters, is the way you hear it. So with that being said, definitely want to thank the super chatters for tonight. Going back here is T-Bone. Appreciate you. T-Bone times 2. And then Maggie M10. And just going back to T-Bone, says buy a beer in Reno. How about buy a beer tonight, right? I think I might have to take that one up, maybe make a late night run so we can get it right. But I definitely want to thank you for your support of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Yeah. With that being said, definitely want to just thank everybody for coming in. Like I said, we thank the super chatters. You guys are already space travelers. Consider joining the club. You can join the SOR Space Travelers Club for as little as $5 per month by joining our Patreon. Please make sure you consider doing that. With all the viewers and listeners tuning in from all across the globe, definitely want to thank you for tuning your frequency to Spaced Out Radio, where we do what we do best. And what is that, you ask? Look right above me. We own the night. You guys have a great rest of your night. We're going to be back better than ever tomorrow. The stars will align for an excellent show tomorrow. We're going to do it. Thanks for coming on in. You guys have a great rest of your day. Until then, see you tomorrow. Later.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.